I got hit up to go skate that. And they're like, just go skate it and have fun. And I went and skated that street league. And I think I was the only AM, and there was 24 other pros. And then I ended up winning the spot into street league.
Yep.
But it was crazy because during that period, I had like $700 to my name. I was living on Felipe Gustavo's couch downtown LA. And then it was like, well, hopefully this event goes well. And if it doesn't, I guess I'm like calling my parents or something, or putting a flight home on a credit card and going home and figuring it out. But that event, after that, everything changed.
Unleashed with the Dingo and Danny, fueled by Monster Energy.
We have Brittany. Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Brittany's back.
Hi,
How you doing?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
We have Danny as always.
Hello.
Rocking. You kind of look like a patient right now, but it's all right. Your hair will grow back.
It'll grow back. I'm doing this new short hair thing.
Did you donate it though?
I am. I have the ponytail in a bag.
Did you take a video of cutting that ponytail?
Yeah, I have it. Not on me right now, but I can show it to you after this.
Perfect.
We want to see that.
It was one of the most refreshing things I've ever done.
Did you feel lighter?
Everything felt better. I felt younger. I'm not a slave to conditioner anymore.
Right.
Any like weird stuff come out?
With the conditioner or with the...
Nah, I had head lice once.
Yeah.
And then the grossest feeling I've ever had in my life is you put your hand in your hair and...
How old were you when you had this head lice?
Like 26.
Damn.
Wow.
Where were you hanging out?
Yeah.
Where were you? Are you hanging out in the bush?
And then I gave it to my ex-girlfriend, and then we both had to go to the and mostly head lice is a kid thing, so we had to go to they're giving you lollipops as they take it out, so you're like in the kids' chair as they're combing it out, and you're literally in a row with kids. And my girlfriend at the time, so she found out that I had head lice. Anyway, fucking gross.
You couldn't just bick your head like that was non-negotiable.
Yeah,
non-negotiable.
Right.
How am I gonna? I can't just do it. He's got balls. I couldn't do it. I would.
I mean, you could donate your hair to Cancer Society.
100%,
right?
and I would if that was to be the case. I totally would. And one day I will. It'll happen.
But maybe not with lice in it, huh?
Yeah, you gotta take that out first.
I'll get it out. And our guest today is Matt Berger, not Berger, which we talked about before. No, his whole life that's what people call him.
Opener and a half. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna get fucking right to it, and we're gonna talk about how that. I mean, is that like announces your whole career? Like, is that just kind of a thing that has?
In the beginning, I'd just keep my mouth shut, and then as things progressed, people started to get it correct. And then when I got sponsors, then they really started correcting people. But it's still a thing.
Yeah. And obviously, like where you grew up, it probably wasn't a thing. It was more adopted by the American society, or is it even Canada? There's like it was.
Oh no, I think that's just like English.
Yeah.
Speaking people, it's across the board.
And then if you said in French, how would it be pronounced?
I was told it would be pronounced Berger.
I loved that earlier. Isn't that
That
nice?
does sound
Doesn't
nice.
that
Yeah. I would go with that. I would move to French Canada then at that point.
You'd move to French Canada.
Just so people said my name like that.
Where's French Canada?
That's everything to the east of Toronto.
Yeah, like Montreal.
Yep.
I don't know.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Some people don't know that.
Yeah.
Kamloops? Where's Kamloops? Now I'm on it.
Yeah, that's a long explanation a lot of times. I tell people it's about 4 hours east of Vancouver, if you know where Vancouver is on the west coast.
Okay, so east, like I've snowboarded at Silver Star. Is that somewhere close, or am I way off? Is that close?
Silver Star, it's about an hour? An hour drive?
Yeah.
It's like the center of British Columbia.
Yep.
If you go heli skiing, like I know some of the Burton guys have flown in, they fly into Kamloops and then they drive. So it's kind of like a center point. I'm sure you've been to Kamloops.
to Baldface actually. I think I flew into Kamloops to go to interior BC, where the good pow pow is.
Oh, interior.
Baldface, right? Revelstoke. How far from Revelstoke were
like
you?
3 hours, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of central. Like Whistler's 3 hours, Revy's 3. And then, if you want to go real deep north, there's a ton of I need another coffee apparently with snowmobiling.
But you chose skateboarding over the mountain life.
I mean,
At age 5.
At age 5, he just chose.
So you asked for a skateboard when you're very, very young. Were you skiing? Were you grow up skiing?
no. So I got that for Christmas, and I wasn't even into skateboarding at all. And then this is right when Tony Hawk era came out.
Yep.
Like first games, and then I want to say, was it that had a neighbor skating down the street, something like that, and then just stepped on my board, and it was just kind of a thing. It just stuck. But I have memories of me. I couldn't even stand on it. I was on my knees pushing around. Like that's
Yeah,
how young
wow.
it started. You know.
And then growing up in the cold, so you like in the winter times, where did you skateboard?
You didn't skate?
Yeah.
No skating.
No skating. So there was like blackout periods.
Yeah, I basically would skate like maybe 6-7 months of the year, and then go crazy the other half.
Yep.
And then it wasn't until I found snowboarding when I was in 7th grade.
So you
and then
didn't
that kind of answered
Yeah.
that need to skating and turned it off for a bit. But
Yeah. But did you ever think about trying to pursue snowboarding?
no, I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a fun getaway. It was a secondary thing. I was always in the park. I mean, I remember like when I would go and buy Transworlds, I'd buy the skate and the snow. Like,
Yeah,
I remember
wow.
seeing your like, cause you rode for Volcom at one point? Or am I messing up this right
not
now?
Volcom, Quicksilver back in the day.
Okay.
And
I
then we
remember
did-
seeing a lot of Danny Cass ads. And
Oh, I
things
was
like that.
all over the
Quicksilver.
magazine.
You were
Here's the
that
face of
dude.
all
Quicksilver.
over.
It was
that
him,
dude.
Kelly Slater, and then Tony Hawk at that time.
That's
We're
it,
like
the three of
full-on
us.
Quicksilver.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was a few others in there. There
No,
was
there
like,
were, but like you were the prominent face. Tony was the prominent face, and Kelly was obviously Kelly Slater. Like you went on trips with them as a kid, right?
I did get to go on some really fun quick trips. That was really cool. Back in the heyday when they had the full skate team, so like Reese Forbes and their whole crew. And one day I remember I got to like skate with Donnie Barley, who was like one of my skate heroes
That's
growing
legendary.
up, and
Yeah.
it was so sick. 'Cause I was like, "Is this real? Like, damn, dude, Donnie Barley." And that was pretty cool because I grew up quite a big skate rat as well.
Who were your inspirations growing up in skateboarding? Was it like the local Red Dragon guys, or was it?
I mean, those dudes for sure. But for me, it was more of the local guys, the local leaders. And then these two names, Stacy Gabriel and Derek Swaim. I think those guys could have done something if they weren't in the middle of Canada. You
Yeah.
know, there's no access to a scene. And back then there was no social media, right? So like your avenue to get seen was like you send footage out to like a PO box in California, right? Or you show up at a demo and you got lucky. Like that's how it was. But aside from those two dudes being like the close inspiration of wow, maybe I could get that good. The three, for me, the Canadians at least, was Chris Haslam, Rick McCrank, Wade DeSarmo, and then Paul McNow because he's pretty gnarly. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
Those
at that age or at that time, what kind of skateboarding were you doing? Were there many parks around?
Oh, I had one of like the worst parks you could imagine growing up. It was actually so bad. It was funny in hindsight. Tony Hawk came with the Birdhouse crew and he did a demo and he told the news it was the worst park he's ever done a demo at. And because Tony said that, it actually bummed out the city and then they gave us the money and we got a park. So when I went on a trip with Tony years and years later, I was like, we all owe you one, dude.
Wow.
So it's pretty crazy, his impact for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The guy is skateboarding. We just through our foundation, we built a skate park with Find Your Grind with him in Detroit. And it's crazy. The skate park was sick, but it's crazy. I think he's built 900 and nearly 950 skate parks.
Yeah.
Just in America alone. So to think what that impact has done for those kids in those towns, that the broadness of that is insane. And he's still the man. So it's crazy the impact that he still has today. You got sponsored at a pretty young age. You were 10.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. That was like one of the weirdest experiences ever.
And how did that happen?
Well, it was weird because I started skating really young, and by the time I was like 6 or 7, I was skating probably like 2, 3, or 4 hours a day on my own accord by myself. And then my dad started taking me to the skate park, and then I'm getting better and better. And then the locals talked to him and were like, "You should film your son and put footage together and send that to companies and see what they say." And so I'd say we probably sent out like maybe 3 promos, like one promo a year for 3 years, and like you don't hear anything back.
And what does a promo back then look like?
3 minutes of your best footage.
Yep. And it's handheld, kind of like.
Yeah, it's like full dad cam. You put it together, but it's still like your best tricks, right? And
yep.
You send stuff out and hope, but I mean, at this point, the only pros I'd ever saw, I guess, Tony Hawk had came through, but like that was the craziest thing I've ever seen. In between that, there was no contact with pros. I didn't meet those guys either. I just saw them skating, right? And then we sent out a promo to Almost Skateboards. And then probably a month later while I was skating in my backyard, and I think I was actually 11 at the time, but my mom came to the backyard and she was like, you got to come inside. You got a phone call. And I was like, no, I'm skating. And she was like, come inside. Ronnie Mullen's on the phone. and I didn't believe her. I thought she was like trolling me. I got mad and she was like, no, like answer the phone. And I answered the phone. I have no memory of what he said at all. Just like froze. I was like, what do you mean? Like Godfather's calling me?
That's crazy.
And so, yeah, from then on, I would send his footage or my footage to him, and then he'd critique it. And yeah, I wrote for Almost, I think, for like 9 years. And he was a huge support. But it was just crazy, this portal, like not knowing any pros, and then this direct line to the guy who's created the tricks, he invented the tricks I'm trying to learn. So yeah, it was really wild for me.
Why do you think that was? Was that obviously his talent is fucking insane, and there's very few people that he's probably come across that are able to work their feet like that. Do you think he like just was able to see something in your footage that he knew that he could, I don't know, help you like get to where you needed to go to?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think he saw the passion. For me, I was just so obsessed with it and pushing. And I guess at that time I was skating, better than most at that age, right?
Yep.
And I was very lucky that he was willing to give his time, and he'd send all these emails, and he really helped kind of shape how I should look at skateboarding and how I present it and things like that.
Yep.
And yeah, it was very, like, I remember just years and years of very methodical emails, because he's a very smart guy. Like, we're lucky we have him in skateboarding, right?
Yep.
Most guys who are as smart as him are like he's done TED Talks, but it's like some academic achiever at Stanford or something, right?
It's crazy because every time you do hear him speak, you're like, fuck, this guy's a genius. He'll drop words where I'm like, you gotta Google to understand what that word even means. And he would consistently do stuff like that. There was, I think it recently came out. Maybe it was one of Tony's documentaries that just recently came out. But just, again, the way that he speaks, and I would like to know what his IQ is.
Yeah, I mean, he's so crazy passionate, right, about skateboarding and just the way he speaks. But I mean, he has a different mind, right, for the tricks he did. Because I grew up, young skate rat in Florida during like Zorlak days and all this. But that's when he was like fully on the freestyle board or whatever you would call it.
Yeah,
and even for me, like now, like I still want that board that he did all those tricks on. Like that little blunt mini, like trick deck.
Right.
So wait, hold on. Now this is kind of off topic, but you grew up in Florida, but you became a pro snowboarder.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
That's sick. Like,
have you seen Danny skate too? Danny he fucking can skate good.
Yeah. I mean, well, I love it, right? It was like my first passion, and I started kind of competing and watching like Vert in the early 90s, and seeing Hosoi freaking fly out of the Vert ramp and stuff, and then moved to New Jersey and Florida a few times back and forth, and like kind of same story as yours, where when I moved to New Jersey, like winter just took over and there really wasn't like a skate scene. And that's when I got into snowboarding.
But still terrible for snowboarding, no? Or is you hitting like handrails?
There's a pretty cool scene, but
there's lots of scenes in Jersey. Let me tell you,
like yours. Like,
what scenes are good.
Hey, you became an amazing skateboarder, and you grew up at one of the worst parks in Canada. You know what I mean? So
I got lucky with that for sure.
In New Jersey, I got lucky with the fact that they had a ski resort open, after school until like 8 or 10 p.m. every night.
Wow.
So when you were skateboarding and like when you transitioned for your winter to snowboard, was it pretty, like, is there a similarity? Like, was it easy for you to pick up on, or was it just kind of something you had to really work for, like snowboarding?
No, honestly, it was like so natural.
Yeah.
Like I picked it up, and within a year it was like I was in the park and hitting the rails and stuff, because it
helps, right? To be really good at skateboarding. I mean, and to a certain degree, I mean, I wouldn't know, but
some of the world's best skateboarders I've seen on a snowboard, and they are horrible.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've got to skate or snowboard with the whole girl crew. And
Yeah.
they were pretty bad.
They were all
Yeah.
bad.
Costin was horrible, which made me feel really good. Watching Costin snowboard made me feel amazing.
Yeah. He didn't know which way. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think there's like obviously a very similar aspect to the board sports, but they don't cross over so
Right.
well. Like surfing's pretty freaking hard to figure out all the basics, you know? But for snowboarding, like I really loved about it was like growing up in that vert era of skating. It was like I could do all these tricks and catch so much air on my snowboard and like get these grabs where on a skateboard, like you'd have to be really good at vert to be doing some of these moves.
Because you did pipe, right?
Yeah.
So how was that for you skating a vert ramp? Was it like no-go zone or were you good with that? You're
Oh no,
comfortable?
I just grew up like such a mini ramp skater, like 4 to 6 foot spines. Trannies are like my favorite thing. But vert, no, I'm like, I don't think I've ever actually done more than like I could drop in on extensions. But when it came to lip tricks, like there's just something weird about standing up on that vert coping that's like a different world. And then, and then I got into like vert half pipe snowboarding, which is, you know, basically like you'd think it'd be similar, but I don't have to do the lip tricks and just fly and flip through the air. So I don't know. I mean, I just got used to going fast and enjoying it, you know, but to answer your question, Bert, no, it still scares the shit out of me. I could do like fakey Pop-Tart grabs and stuff. That's
right there with you on that one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like the learning curve for you on like obviously Rodney Mellon on the phone emailing you, other likes of like, you know, Day One and Costin, like how was your learning curve? Like, like the dedication you put in, it must have been a hard session to get to where you got to, or was it natural for you to be so technical?
I mean, it's funny because in hindsight, if I like look at the timeline, I'm like, holy shit, that must have been hard, you know? But it was so one day at a time, like one small win at a time, that it just was natural. Like I was never stressing about where I was going. I was only ever concerned with here today and like, how was I going to maximize that, right? So for me, I was like very strict with myself. Like every day I'm in the park, I gotta push something. Like this is my threshold. I gotta do something out here, just a little bit past, you know, and feel that growth.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, because I would go to the US contests like the Phoenix Am or the Tampa Am. I'd see what everyone's doing. And then I would go home. And like where I grew up, there's literally nothing else to do in the summertime other than skate, right?
Yep.
Like it's kind of boring. And that's the beauty of it, really. And so I'd just be basically working at it every single day and trying to evolve that one day at a time. So I never really thought about the curvature to success, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call it. It was just kind of, let's go skate and build this.
Well, it was just kind of built into you. You were skateboarding every day. So that's how it kind of happened. Coming and doing those like amateur contests, you know, like Tampa Am and Phoenix, was that like an eye opener for you? Coming, because obviously your talent where you grew up was a little different than probably most of the kids around you. Yeah. Going and seeing young talented kids, was that like, holy shit, like there's a lot of good young skateboarders out here?
I don't know. I mean, the way I saw it, it never like freaked me out. It more so inspired me. You know, if I saw guys that were on this crazy level, oh, he's next up, you know? And then if anything, I would just see the lay of the land of this is the current level, right?
Yep.
This is the top. And then I would go home and it was kind of like back in the lab working on things.
So you won the Damn Man Canada in 2009.
Yeah.
Was that like your first major contest win as an amateur?
I guess, yeah, that would be the first one. But the Vancouver one was like, it was kind of funny because I think a lot of guys couldn't get into Canada. That was the case. And so it was like, it was a win, but it wasn't
What's
a
up
big
with Canadians
deal.
not letting Americans
they guard
in?
it, man.
I don't
They
know.
guard it.
We got to go talk to Border Patrol on that.
Oh, I have many times. I went to go just watch the Olympics in 2010, and I was, you know, with my girlfriend at the time, and I just packed like the Olympic medals I had, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna bring them like just in case." She's like, "Just in case what?" I'm like, "Just in case they give me shit at the border."
Oh yeah.
And sure enough, some guy pulled me like right out of the airport in Vancouver before you even get through the check, and he's just like, "I'm gonna go through your stuff," and I'm like, "Cool." And like opens a zipper and like pulls them out. They're not in like a bag or anything fancy, and I'm like, "I'm good, right?"
You got them wrapped in lingerie.
So I got to go in.
You got
you know?
women's lingerie and Olympic medals. You're like,
Yeah. But I don't know. They stereotyped me for sure. That's why I cut my hair. I can go to Canada then this year.
That's it, huh? You think you're good to get in now?
I think so.
I don't think so, dude.
Bring your medals just in case.
With that being said, I'll say coming to the U.S. before I got my work visas was just as savage as what you're talking about. I remember coming down for like a 2-week film trip. I got pulled into secondary, didn't have visas, and I was like, yeah, I'm just skateboarding, like with my friends. Like, well, what are you doing here for 2 weeks? Anyways, it pulled me into secondary, and I basically dealt with like good cop, bad cop situation for 10 hours. They held me. One guy was super nice to me. The other guy, the nice guy would leave, and then the mean guy would come in. I'll never forget. He was like, so, from the click of a button, Matt, remember you need to answer these questions correctly because I can bar you from the U.S. from a year, 5 years, of the rest of your life. Are you coming to the United States to traffic drugs, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine? I was like, what are you talking about? I'm here to do kickflips, man. Leave me alone. And yeah, I ended up getting barred for the U.S. for a few months. Doing kickflips.
He's like, all right, look it up. New drug, guys. Kickflips hot on the market.
But no, it was wild. And then it wasn't until I got my visa sorted. But that was just them. They came up with. I looked the part, right? Mm-hmm. So after that, I would clean myself up, not bring my boards, and sneak through the border. And now we're good because we got visas.
Yeah, you're good to go. It's all backed up. You got the internet too now. Mm-hmm. It verifies who you are. I've had a couple interesting experiences with Border Patrol. It's weird. They always feel like they got one. They feel like I got one here. You're like, fuck, you don't have one, dude. Old granny over there is probably strapped with cocaine. You got I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, but you had an opportunity to do a promotion with Street League in 2014.
Yeah,
it's crazy because Rob was my neighbor at that time when he started SLS, and I remember him going through the process of like how he came up with it, of like, hey, I want to create a league just for skateboarding.
Yeah, and
I remember sitting on his doorstep one day, and he was like explaining like the breakdown of what it is. And at that point, he'd kind of fronted his own money to get it to where it needed to get to. But he was like so black and white on like what he wanted to do for skateboarding and create this league that took care of you guys that then would be solely focused on skateboarding. And he, tried to refer to the NBA a little bit on the process of it. But it was really cool because I was able to see it from an idea that he had and then fulfill it, and then to see how long it's been running.
Yeah.
But to see what it did in that moment from 2014 up, but like there was an era there for 7-8 years where like you went to these street leagues and like they were fucking amazing.
They're insane.
Sold out arenas, sold out hockey arenas. And I was like, I can't believe you're not going to have entertainment or music. And he's like, nah, everyone's there to skateboard. And there was a whole group of you guys that like were all superstars.
Yeah.
And all in your different right mind. And like, that's never really happened in snowboarding and in any other action sport. So it was cool that I was able to, see that. And, you're a huge part of your career was, being at these SLS contests. But you did a promotion tour in 2014 with them. How did you get into that?
Yeah.
And then obviously it transcended into something much larger.
Yeah, no, that was a really crazy period. I mean, that was like right when I kind of started to feel the ball rolling with things, when I was skating a certain way and, learning certain tricks that I knew if I brought to competition, it could do well. And then I remember I'd won Phoenix Am. And then right after that, I got hit up to go skate that. And they're like, just go skate it and have fun. And I went and skated that street league. And I think I was the only Am, and there was 24 other pros. And then I ended up winning the spot into street league.
Yep.
But it was crazy because during that period, I had like $700 to my name. I was living on Felipe Gustavo's couch downtown LA. And then it was like, well, hopefully this event goes well. And if it doesn't, I guess I'm like calling my parents or something or putting a flight home on a credit card and going home and figuring it out. But that event, after that, everything changed.
Crazy.
Just like overnight.
Where was that one?
That was LA.
That was LA.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
And that was like the qualifier to get into the street league because it's limited number, right? There's like
Yeah, they take the top 3 guys. And then at that time, this is when like Rob was still running the show there.
Yeah.
And it was every stadium was like sold out, thousands of people. Like Rob did such a good job of like meshing the culture and like bringing it to a show, but then also navigating that like corporate money side, right? And meshing him in a way that was done better than I've saw anyone else do in terms of, you know, building a business and then allowing it to also benefit the skaters because we all were so well taken care of, right?
Yeah. Well, like the prize pool was like real money, you know, it was like $100,000, $150,000 and they were paying people all the way down and it was a real true league. Like, I don't think you guys were allowed to compete in any other series unless it was like X Games or whatever it was. So there were definitely claws, but also if you were a part of that, if you were in Street League, you were doing something at that time, which was really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, they had the clause, but you also got a good paycheck just to show up and compete. So I was like, well, of course we're going to do this, right?
And then also too, like the audiences, like you're used to big audiences at UFCs, right? Like a lot of action sport events, the audiences aren't doing sold out like arenas. Is the energy in there is insane. Like when it comes down to that final trick where everyone's trying to do their best tricks at the end of the score building and fuck man, like that's like really the intense pressure of that, you know, and you got, you know, 10, 15,000, 20,000 people standing up like screaming. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that was the best part of it was the energy. That's why the stadium was like my favorite place for it when you're competing because everyone's there. There's just a ball of energy. Yeah. But back then, it was gnarly. It's getting a little better. Hopefully Street League continues to
I think they're like figuring it out. You know, there's new owners there. And
we might need to edit that out because now I'm almost dogging them right now. But I'm not trying to.
Yeah, they're gonna like, you gotta requalify for your spot this season.
Suddenly I'm out of the league now next season.
No. We're huge fans of SLS here. Have been from the beginning and will continue to be. They created something also that necessarily had never been formed, was the way that they judge street skating. Yeah. And that changed the format too, because there are people, you know, Sheckler at that time was winning all the X Games and those, and Ryan never actually won a street league. Yeah. And the way that the judging had changed, do you think the judging benefit street skaters, but the way that the judging was done, do you believe that it was done correctly or it was done?
Well, there's been so many different versions of it because they've been refining it and trying different ways to like maximize, you know, I guess the show we'll call it or the event itself. Yep. You know, right now they have it where I think your run score takes 30% of your overall score, and then you have to land 2 single tricks. The only problem is if you don't run clean on your runs, you could do 2 of the craziest single tricks, and you're probably not going to make finals. And so it takes away from the event a little bit, in my opinion. Yep. But they've also had it in the past. Like my favorite was when you needed to get 5 scores on the board out of 10, and then you could either do that through your 2 runs or through your single tricks. Yeah. So if you blew your runs, then you could make it up in your singles, or say you killed your runs, but you're having a tough time in your single tricks, but you're able to get the scores on the board, then you might still have a shot. Yep. So it's evolved a lot over time, and they've tried different things.
Yeah. And then what's up with, they've changed the rules for the run score. It's a total instead of being able, kind of like do your best trick scores. So that kind of makes it not as fun at the end there.
I mean, no, it's still fun. It just like if you blow your run, for example, like you just know you're out of the running. And so for me, if that's happened, which has happened for me in the past, it's like, all right, well, these are for the crowd, you know? Yep. Let's go put it down anyways. Yep. But it definitely takes away an element, I think. So hopefully they change that.
Right. Just could be a stupid question, but do you prefer contests or do you prefer filming?
It's like a yin and yang for me.
Right.
I need both. If I do too much of one, I get burnt out. If I do both, I'm enjoying both of them just as much. It's like a balance. You need it all, I think. At least for me. That's how I'm with it.
Because you've won a couple X Games medals. Apparently, we have to fix your the X Games bio because they only have you up as 1 medal. We need to get, you've got a bronze and a silver.
ESPN, where you at? X Games, where you at?
We gotta fix that for you, dude.
Oh, whatever.
But you've got 2 Real Street video medals, silver and bronze. How's the process to make those videos? It's pretty intense, right?
Yeah, for the real street, it was through COVID. So it was like, I remember we were going into the Olympics and then everything shut down, I think within like a 5-day period when Corona started going crazy in the spring of, what was it? Was it 2020? Yeah.
It was. That's when it
19,
started.
right?
When did it end? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Did it?
But we were all getting ready for the Olympics. And then out of nowhere, it was just whole thing dead in the water. And then I was like, well, what do I do? I can't leave California. I need to find something to put my energy towards, right? And then that's when I hit up Mike Sinclair, and then the real street opportunity arrived. And then it was actually really cool because, in all honesty, with Corona existing, there was no security at all these spots, and so it felt like I was a street skater in the 90s. Like, we'd just go out 3 days a week, hitting spots, filming, and trying to get our best stuff. So
that's pretty sick, though, huh?
Yeah, it was very different.
So you mentioned the Olympics. You represented Canada in the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know what a lot of you guys went through, which is kind of crazy, is you prepared for the 2020 Olympics, but you didn't compete in the Olympics until 2021.
Yeah.
Mentally, that must have fucked you up a little bit.
Yeah, the hardest part for me was not seeing my family because I couldn't go back, like, for how much preparing it was, like, and for how hard it was to get into Canada during that period too.
Same as Australia.
It was insane. It was not worth the amount of time and money it would take to just get back to visit for a week. And so I was like, I'll just stay on this path, right? And so the sacrifice, of the family time was the hard part for me, for sure. But I was lucky in the sense as a skateboarder. It's cool that I went to the Olympics, of course, but that wasn't my end all be all, right? This didn't sit at the top of the mountain in the terms of my mind. It was like suddenly showed up as an opportunity. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll just go film. We have other avenues and things we like to do. So we're really lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, going there and going to the Olympics, it was crazy because you flew in and then it was so segregated, right? Because let's say I stayed with an Olympic fencer. It's like, well,
you weren't roomed with because were you the only? No, how many Canadian skaters were there?
There was 2 of us.
And they didn't room you with the other Canadian skater?
I was in there with them, but they need to maximize the rooms, and so there's 3 rooms per condo.
3 beds per room.
And so we were rooming with an Olympic fencer. But
How
it was
that?
like, it was cool.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy, but it was just crazy because everyone was very distant because they're like, I don't know if you have Corona, and if you test positive, my Olympic dream's over, right?
Man, so many nightmares.
It was pretty hectic.
I feel bad for that guy, the fencer coming into the Olympics, and then he gets roomed with 2 skaters. He's like, shit. You guys are like, I could only imagine,
Man, you just heard about so many horror stories, even through the Winter Olympics this year into China and the stuff you guys had to deal with. And one thing they didn't really say on television was the heat that you guys were dealing with while you were skateboarding.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the Olympics, I got my ass kicked from leading in everything. So I never went public with it because it was too much, what is the term I'm thinking of? Just overall noise, or it could be misconstrued in media. But I had COVID 3 weeks out from the Olympics, and I know everyone has their opinions on that. I got my ass kicked. I was sitting in bed for 10 days.
Yeah.
And then, so to get into Japan, you needed 2 double negative PCR tests. But if you complete the quarantine period and you're okay, you still will test positive on PCR tests because they're so sensitive, right?
Yep.
And so every day when I was finally fine and like waiting to go to Japan, I'm waking up, maybe I'll test negative today. I kept testing positive. And so it wasn't until the very last day, cutoff day, to test negative, I finally tested negative. And then I flew straight from LA to Japan, missed the first day of practice, and then was just like thrown into that machine.
Sucks.
So it was gnarly, like going into that in the heat and whatnot. It was like, as a skater, you're like, fuck it, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get through it. But it was just like one thing after another. And, by the end of it, it was just kind of a wash.
Well, and your lungs, right? Because that's what it goes for. So, that's like stretching those things out again.
Yeah.
After
having
being dormant for
the COVID lungs with whatever, it was
skating.
like 42 degree heat or 105. So it was gnarly. for sure, for everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Man, that sucks, man. To go through that, your body to go through that, it's like,
I feel like a lot of the stories of the guys that we have on here, they have a similar story. Like they were like kept testing net positive and like
we've had one of our snowboarders, Dusty Hendrickson. He was literally at the airport with the US team, and they were testing him, and he kept testing positive, but he'd had it like a month earlier.
Yeah.
And then when they got him to China, they kept him in he was in his own like little bubble.
Yeah.
So he didn't really get to see
many,
anybody.
If we had 2 already, I wonder how many that was happening to.
Everyone. Every single person.
Every single one.
Yeah.
And then Connor, one of our BMX guys that was 2-time Olympic gold medalist, had a crash in Japan and then woke up in the hospital and had a major head injury and didn't know where he was, and there was no one around.
Wow.
Kind of like, and then nobody could come in because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so it's like those stories are insane.
Gnarly.
For the Olympic, like when they were doing the skate, was it run similar to the SLS, or was it just like run score? Did it go into hammers and stuff?
No, you're good.
Yeah, they adopted the whole like format that Rob built at Street League. So it was the 2 runs and then the 5 single tricks and then 5 scores totaled. And that was it, out of 10 for each score.
And how was that course? Because it's like, I mean, all these courses change, right? Like almost every different street contest. So was it like, did you like the way the course was kind of run? I mean, obviously it's like they can tweak them and favor other skaters, or other skaters maybe adapt easier, you know?
Yeah, well, it was funny because one of the Olympic rules they had was like the skate park had to be symmetrical. So it was fair no matter your stance. So each obstacle was built, on either side of the park. Right. So that was a cool aspect. And it was a really well-built park. But because they hosted it at 3:00 in the afternoon, and it was like, I think it was like 105 out or something. It was so hot you couldn't even wax the rails because the wax would just melt. And so it changed your ability to skate it. And I think that's why, some people obviously killed it, but it was hard for a lot of people.
It's crazy too, because as big as the build-up was, again, it just it's another contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, to win it or podium at the Olympics is awesome, but I think in the skateboard world, the world moves so quick anyway that it's one of those things where it's almost, it's not like it's the pinnacle of like winning Tampa Am, or like these moments that happen in skateboarding that are so, even I think winning an X Games is at some point probably as you go down the line, yes, to have that Olympic medal. I think in snowboarding it's a little different. I think in skateboarding it's, I think Rune mentioned it, and I forget exactly what Rune Cliffberg said, but he said something perfect about just kind of what it is, and go there to be a part of it because it's there. And you kind of said the same thing, but it's not the be all and end all of your skateboarding career. Going to the Olympics. Yeah,
our culture in our world of skateboarding, it's like we never needed it, right?
No, they need you guys. It's so crazy now. Like it like if you watch Summer X Games, and it was more identified to me watching Winter Olympics this year. It looks like you're watching X Games. Yeah. And the way that they call it, the way that they shoot it, the way that it's all done, they need us and they need you guys to keep, because the sports that have been there for so long, people aren't really identifying with. And the new wave of it is extreme sports, which honestly is good for extreme sports. Yeah. You've got countries now that like have never really put that much money into it. They're like, oh shit, there's a 13-year-old girl from Brazil that just, let's pile money into it. And the countries that do well at the Olympics, in these categories have been the Japanese, have been Australia, have been the Brazilians, and these people that are now focusing their young kids to go compete at the Olympics. Comes around every 4 years, and it's good to have countries putting money into it, but it's not the be-all, end-all. And the more and more it looks like X Games, and they reference X Games, the better for us. So that's...
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said right there.
You turned pro, and this is like something that like for our fan base here, turning pro in skateboarding is a little different, right? So was it 2015 with Flip Skateboards? Yeah. Is it a pro model deck? Is that what makes you pro? Yeah. So that's it because in snowboarding it's completely different, right?
Yeah, I mean in snowboarding I think it's like the moment you get a paycheck or someone gives you free gear, you're like, I'm freaking pro, man. Like I just got a brand new board for free. And in skateboarding, it's like this deck party, and it's always like a surprise in a way. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, like, it seems like a really fun thing to do as a team manager, because I would like totally be like, yeah, I don't know if you're going to make it, man, you know? And then all of a sudden your deck gets released like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Like,
I
were you
thought
pretty
with
surprised?
snowboarding though was if you got a board with your name on it, that made it legit. Or am I? Because there is pro model snowboards.
Yeah,
right?
that's a pro model, but that's not
Right.
what like necessarily like makes you a pro.
Right.
Whereas in skateboarding, it's like there is like this stat.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that's snowboarding from boots, he's had his name on, I think, everything times whatever.
Quite a few pieces for sure. But not in snowboarding, and it's a little different where I think the products are more expensive in the snowboard thing. So a lot of companies will kind of hold off from putting just names to products
Yeah.
because they want to sell more in a way.
Yeah.
Where I think in skateboarding, you know, like graphics are so important, and then also, you know, that you get to have a little bit more fun with it in the sense of like, all right, it's a, you know, $60 and
Yeah.
but it's such a big deal in skateboarding, right, to go pro with this deck party.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, you can make all the money, win all the contests as an am skater, but you not until you get a board with your name on it, you're not pro.
How did those guys do it for you?
It was a surprise. I remember being told after I got into Street League and I was sitting on footage, and then it was kind of like one of the guys in my circle have kind of helped me guide this career. He was like, they're probably gonna have to turn you pro. And I didn't know when or anything of the sort. Obviously that's the dream, right? You know, growing up watching flip skateboards and whatnot. And I got a call to go to, I had to do an interview at this restaurant in Long Beach. And I was sitting there mid-interview, and then this like young kid skates up to me. He's like, "Hey Matt, can you sign my board, please?" And then just pops up like my pro model board. I was like, "What?" And then they're like, "Come on back." And then I went into the back of the restaurant, and then the whole team was there. And yeah, it was crazy.
That's sick.
Yeah, it was rad.
I mean, that's a pretty sick team to go pro with.
Yeah, it was definitely the dream. You know, growing up in Canada, watching Flip Sorry, and then, you know, getting the call from Raleigh and getting on, and the snowball effect. I was lucky.
Is that like the most knownly like famous skateboard movie?
I mean, there's quite a few. Definitely the flip videos of that era were like none other.
Yeah, you can't say it's number one, but there's like certain blocks of time where there's like 2 or 3 videos that were like held, you know, the test of time, and that was the pinnacle, right?
Because that was VHS too when it came out, right?
Yeah.
Sick.
Well, and it was like the whole intro, right? With like Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols vibe.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't know. It was definitely a groundbreaking moment for sure. But when you saw this skate deck, right? Did you like the graphic? Because I feel like there'd be like times where you turn pro and all of a sudden it's like the worst graphic ever. And you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, my graphic at first, I was like, it's like, do you know Brutus from Popeye?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was Brutus. But it's funny because I didn't even know who Brutus was. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like, you're the big bearded strong man or whatever. It's like what they said. I was like, I don't even care. I'm just hyped to have a board. Let's go.
So that's what's I think funny about it is like you don't have this really like big say in your first pro model graphic, right? Like it could have been a lot worse coming from Canada, right? It could have just been like a
They really could have stitched you
Poontine
up.
graphic or
Oh,
something.
yeah,
Or like
none of that.
Just pouring maple
Yeah.
syrup. Or is that what do you guys call it? What do you call it? Maple syrup?
just syrup.
Just syrup?
I don't know.
Well, why wouldn't it be called maple syrup?
I don't know. I think we call it something else.
What do you
Yeah.
call it?
There's another name for it, isn't there?
Well, there's syrup and there's maple syrup.
Nah, maybe
Vermont maple syrup, but
Yeah,
that's
maybe I'm just
the
cooked.
knockoff version.
What was your what was when you were able to design your first graphic? What was your first graphic?
I've never designed one.
So you don't get a say in it?
No, they wouldn't let me design it in.
Do they
None.
give you a say in snowboarding?
Nope.
I mean, quite a bit, I guess. I don't know.
So every year it's just a surprise.
I mean, I've even gotten to draw my own before.
I might give them
that
a little
one-
bit,
That one didn't. That one
I
turned out
didn't
all right.
say.
but
Right.
no. That's right. You got to design all your graphics.
Not all of them. But I mean, for the most part, I've definitely had quite a say in it for
He
sure.
had one of his best friends that he grew up with that designed like the first original grenade gloves and then designed a bunch of his boards that ended up being pretty sick. Like
Yeah.
the 2002 board he had at the Olympics was just a coffin.
That's
Damn.
dope.
The base was sick.
That's pretty chill.
There's been some good ones and some bad ones over the years.
Some bad ones. Yeah. One time I drew was at this meeting and I just drew like a wiener board. So the
they
tail
made the
was
dick
just
ball.
balls, and then the head kind of had a little bit of or the tip. Anyways,
made it.
they actually made this snowboard in like a 170, and they gave it to me. I was like, oh man, I got a little drunk at that dinner, huh? Sick board, man.
You know, I have a doll. They made a UFC doll, and they never. They were just like, we're coming out with, you know, action figures, and I have this thing, and it looks so bad, and it's of me for the rest of my life. Everyone's like, you're an action figure. I'm like, yeah, but have you seen this action figure? It's
Yeah, it can go wrong.
It went wrong. And
We need to get one of these dolls.
I have one. I'll bring it.
So what we do here at the end is Danny works extremely hard, and we have these like lightning round questions.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you
no.
just got to be like, just think quick.
Just be quick, whatever comes to your mind. Most timeless, inspiring video part.
I'd say Arto Sari in Minefield.
Do you believe
Does
in
he still
aliens?
live in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
Were you a Tony Hawk Pro Skater kid on PlayStation?
No.
Are you a character in Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
No. But
even
I
the
did play.
remake?
I mix those things up. Now, I wasn't in the video game, but yes, I played a ton of it as a kid.
I played a lot. Do you have any legendary Tom Penny stories or a story?
None I can say on here.
Perfect. That's a real
That's
Tom
the
Penny
story.
story.
That's it. Fuck, he's a legend.
He's a legend. Great guy.
Best advice Rodney Mullen ever gave you?
Quality over quantity.
So style over hammers.
Yeah, somewhat along those lines. But edit out all the bullshit. Always make sure it's quality.
Have you ever flipped in, flipped out?
No,
That'd be pretty cool.
that'd be a lot.
I've done that on Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
That's going to be a good social media clip right there.
Oh, I think you would flip in, flip out, manual, flip out.
I think that's just doing too much at that point.
So
You
you're
know?
still style over hammers.
I mean, it depends though. There's a way to have a stylish hammer here, right?
That's true.
It's like with snowboarders, everyone's like spin to win, no style, right?
Well, I don't think it ended up being pushed that way. I don't think if those kids, they do it and they're good at doing it, but I don't think they enjoy doing it.
Right. It's just to
Maybe
win,
there's like a
win
few
the
that
event.
enjoy doing it, but like nobody really likes it.
Well, it's like anything in our, I think our action sports, you do something so sick and it's like the level and so dangerous and stylish or whatever, but it's not something you want to do every day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like when you see a kid skateboarding down the street, do you also yell, do a kick flip?
Yeah. No.
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 Have you ever done a kickflip when someone's yelled it out the car window?
Oh yeah.
Sick.
Oh wait, not out the window though.
Not out the window?
No. Come on now.
All right. So we have just a clip here of you. We're just kind of been talking through it. So we're going to play this clip on the TV here. And is this in Hollywood? Where is this?
Yeah, this is Hollywood 12. Sugarcane battle.
So what most people don't see is what you go through to land a trick. And how frustrating is it not is this part?
It's frustrating because it's right at your fingertips, but it just keeps slipping away. But yeah, this was a good battle. This was right after skating Street League all weekend. And then went there with Joey Shigeo, who's now the Monster team
Yep.
manager, funny enough. And we talked about going to that spot for a while. And it was in the back of my mind. And then, yeah, we went and got it. It was a rad day.
And then where's this?
That's in Huntington.
Local.
Yeah. This stuff, I don't even know where this is.
Yeah,
I
well
don't
that's
know where
probably
this
from
looks
Joey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Huntington Beach Out Rail. Yeah, that was filming for the Real Street part.
Sick, which you got a medal for.
Yeah, lucky enough to get a medal. This is in the backyard. That's what I was skating when we were in full lockdown. Like I was
You
skating
do
out
have a
like
pretty
3
sick
hours a day.
backyard.
Whoa, that was cool.
I enjoy watching that footage.
Oh yeah, appreciate that.
Well, Matt, we really appreciate you here at Monster Energy, and thanks for joining us. Anything you want to say, Brittany?
No, that's awesome, man. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. It was
Thanks
good
for all the
chatting.
snowboard lingo. It's very hard to get a skateboarder in here to talk about snowboarding.
Well, we look forward to watching quite a few more hammers come out.
Yeah, the
Any,
passion's still there, so hopefully some more come out.
Any video parts we should go out there and study before we go skateboard of yours?
None of mine, but of all the greats out there, like the Artos and the Rowleys and the Rodneys. But don't worry about me.
Okay, we'll watch some Rodney.
Yeah.
Sick, dude. Thank you.
Unleashed with the Dingo and Danny. Fueled by Monster Energy.